A ship dies in the dark. 43 men go with it. One walks home alone. 3 years pass. A quiet patrol cruiser drifts on the edge of charted space. Inside one small cabin, a clock reads 0247. The same minute. Every night. A man sits up in damp sheets. He does not cry. He has used that up. Beside his bunk waits a letter. 3 lines in 3 years. The 4th line will not come. Somewhere across the dark between stars, a different room glows soft and pale. A throne palace 50 kilometers wide. A dying empress lies on a low silver couch. Her white hand closes around a small crystal that has been waiting on her pillow. For 3 years, she has been waiting too. Then a sealed order moves between worlds, a queen's personal mark, a summons that cannot be refused. A transport lifts, 6 hours from a stranger he has never met. The lights of a crystal city wait in the deep. The Door, Part 1. 3 years. That's how long Callum Whitfield had been waking up at the same hour. 3 years and 17 days. He didn't count anymore. The count just happened. Like breathing. Like the dull ache behind his ribs that never quite went away. The clock on his bulkhead read 0247. Always 0247. The exact minute the UES Ranger had hit the plague vessel 3 years ago. The exact minute his old life had ended, and this new one, this thinner, quieter one, had begun. He sat up slowly. The sheets were damp again. Sweat, not tears. He didn't cry anymore. He'd used up his crying somewhere in the first year between the funerals and the inquiry and the medals he kept in a drawer, because looking at them made his hands shake. The viewport showed nothing but stars. The Liberty was a patrol cruiser. 200 crew. Edge of charted space. The kind of post you got when command didn't know what to do with you, but didn't want to throw you away either. A polite shelf. A quiet corner of the galaxy where a broken lieutenant could keep doing his job without bothering anyone. Callum slid open the drawer beside his bunk. The letter was there. Waiting. The same letter he'd started writing 3 years ago. The one to his mother. 3 lines on the page. 3 lines in 3 years. Mom, I'm sorry I haven't written. I don't know how to. That was where it stopped. I don't know how to, and then nothing. Because how did you finish that sentence? How did you tell a woman who'd already lost her husband that her only son had come back from the war wrong? Quieter, smaller, like something inside him had been left behind on that bridge with Captain Marrow and the 43 others 43. He knew every name, every face, every birthday, every hometown. He kept them filed in his head like a private memorial nobody else could visit. The door chimed. "Come in," he said, voice rough. Nora Ashford stepped through with 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee. The good kind she kept hidden in a tin under her bunk and only brought out when she thought he needed it, which lately was always. "You weren't sleeping," she said. "I was." "You're a terrible liar, Cal." She handed him a cup. He took it. The heat was good against his palms. Nora sat on the edge of the bunk. She was small, sharp-eyed. The kind of friend who didn't ask if you were okay because she already knew you weren't, and asking would just make you lie. "You going to write her this leave?" she asked. Callum looked at the drawer. "Maybe." "That's what you said last leave." "I know." And the one before? Nora. I'm just saying. Bridget Whitfield deserves more than radio silence from her boy. He flinched. Hearing his mother's name out loud always hurt in a way he couldn't explain. Like someone had said the name of a country he wasn't allowed to visit anymore. I'll try, he said. Nora studied him. Then she nodded. Slowly. The way she always did when she'd decided to let something go for now. She sipped her coffee. "Captain wants you," she said. "Ready room. Soon as you're dressed. At 3 in the morning. At 3 in the morning." He set down his cup. "Nora, what's going on?" She looked at the floor, then at him. "I don't know everything," she said. But Adelaide's face when the message came in. Cal, I've never seen her look like that. Like what? Like she was scared. The corridor was empty. It usually was at this hour. The Liberty ran on a skeleton night crew. The hum of the engines came up through the deck plates like a heartbeat. Steady. Familiar. The one thing in his life that hadn't changed in 3 years. Captain Adelaide Thorne was waiting at her desk. 55. Iron gray hair pulled tight. 20 years in the fleet. She'd fought pirates at Tarsus, mediated the ceasefire at Hellas Belt, buried more crew than Callum had ever served with. She didn't scare easy. Tonight she looked scared. "Sit down, Whitfield." He sat. She slid a data pad across the desk. The screen glowed pale blue. The seal at the top was unmistakable. Flowing script. A crown made of starlight. The royal mark of the Elthar Empire. Callum's stomach dropped. "Read it," she said. He read it. He read it again. The words didn't change. To Lieutenant Callum Whitfield of the United Earth Forces, by order of Her Majesty, Queen Larissa of the Elthar Empire, you are hereby summoned to private audience aboard the Imperial flagship, Eternal Dawn. Transport will arrive at your current position within 6 standard hours. This summons may not be refused, delayed, or transferred. Signed, Lord Chancellor Aeldon Royal Court of Oelthar. He looked up. "Ma'am," he said, "there must be a mistake." "There isn't. I'm a lieutenant." "I know. I've met 3 Aelthar officers in my entire career. I know. He stopped. His mouth was dry. "Captain," he said quietly. "Why me?" Adelaide Thorne looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out another data pad. Older, scuffed at the corners. She set it down beside the first. "Cal," she said, "I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago." He waited. "This isn't the first summons." The room went very still. "What?" "This is the third." His pulse went tight in his throat. "The Queen of Elthar," Adelaide said slowly, "has asked to see you 3 times. The first request came 6 months after Proxima. The second, a year later. Both were intercepted at Fleet Command and quietly buried. They thought it was a political risk. A junior officer summoned by a foreign sovereign. Nobody wanted to set that precedent. You knew. I learned a year ago, after I took command of this ship, and they briefed me on your file. They told me to keep watch on you, to make sure you didn't find out. And you, I did my job, Cal. I'm not proud of it." He set the pad down very carefully, because if he didn't set it down carefully, he might throw it. "Why now?" he said. "Why is this one going through?" Adelaide met his eyes. "Because this one wasn't signed by an aide. It was signed by the Queen herself, with a personal seal that hasn't been used in 40 years. Fleet Command tried to bury it. The Aelthar ambassador walked into the Admiralty at noon yesterday and told them that if Lieutenant Whitfield was not aboard a transport within 24 hours, the Empire would consider the alliance in question. He couldn't breathe. "She made it a treaty issue," Adelaide said. "Over me. Over you." He sat back. The chair felt very far away from his body. "Captain," he said, "I don't understand." "Neither do I." She folded her hands on the desk. "But Cal, listen to me. The Aelthar do not play games with this kind of summons. Whatever she wants from you, it is not small, and it is not bad. The Queen herself does not call you across the stars to punish you." He nodded, numb. "You'll need formal dress," she said. "Pack light. The transport will arrive at 0800. "Yes, ma'am." "Cal." He looked up. Adelaide Thorne, the Iron Captain, who had buried more crew than he had ever known, reached across the desk and put her hand on his. "Whatever she wants," Adelaide said. "You earned it. Do you hear me? You earned it." He couldn't answer. His throat had closed. He nodded again. She squeezed his hand once, then let go. "Go, Pack Lieutenant." He stood. The room tilted slightly. He walked to the door. He stopped with his hand on the frame. "Captain," he said, without turning around. "The first two summonses. Do you know what they said?" A long pause. "No," Adelaide said. "Only that she asked for you by name. Both times." He walked out into the corridor. The Liberty's heartbeat hummed through the deck plates, and somewhere across the dark between stars, an alien queen had been waiting for him for 3 years. He didn't sleep. He packed instead. Dress uniform. Boots polished. The medals he never wore. A clean shirt for after. A small framed photograph of his mother that he kept in the bottom of his locker. Bridget Whitfield on the front porch of the little house in Vermont, where Callum had grown up, hand shielding her eyes from the sun. He looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he put it in his bag. Whatever happened next, he wanted her with him, even in a frame, even in his head. Word travels fast on a small ship. By 0500 half the crew knew. By 0700 all of them did. When Callum walked toward the docking bay, the corridors were lined with men and women in half-dress uniform, standing quietly watching him pass. Nobody said anything. That was the thing that got him. If they'd cheered, he could have stayed composed. If they'd joked, he could have laughed back. But they just stood there, watching. The way you watch someone leave for a place you can't follow them to. Nora was waiting at the docking bay airlock. She held his bag. "You forgot this," she said. "I didn't." "You did. You always forget your kit." He took it. She looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she was pretending they weren't. "Listen to me," she said. "Whatever happens out there, you are not going alone. Do you understand me? You carry this ship with you. You carry every one of us. And you carry—" She stopped. "You carry them too," she said quietly. "The 43. Wherever you go, they go with you." Something cracked open inside him. He didn't have the words for it. He pulled her into a hug. "Nora, don't say anything sentimental, Cal. I will lose it. Okay. Just come back. Okay." She pulled away, wiped her face quickly, smiled. "Go meet your Queen Lieutenant." He turned toward the airlock. The Aelthar transport was beautiful. That was the first thing he noticed. It wasn't a ship the way human ships were ships. It looked grown, like coral pulled out of an ocean and crystallized in starlight. Pale blue, glowing softly from inside. About the size of a shuttle, but built like something a king might send. The hatch opened. 2 Elthar guards stepped out. Tall, 7 feet, 4 arms each. Skin like polished marble veined with silver. Their armor caught the light and bent it. They were not the Queen, but even they made his crew gasp quietly behind him. The taller one stepped forward. "Lieutenant Whitfield," it said. Its voice came through a translation pendant. Musical. Careful. "I am Commander Vexthar of the Royal Guard. Her Majesty sends her welcome. We will escort you to Eternal Dawn. Please, come aboard." Callum looked back one more time. Captain Thorne was on the gantry above. She gave him a single sharp nod. He stepped onto the alien ship. The inside of the transport smelled like rain on warm stone. He didn't know how he knew that. He'd never smelled it before. But that was the smell. The walls glowed softly. The chairs were grown rather than built, curving up out of the floor, like flowers carved from quartz. When he sat down, the chair adjusted itself to his body, the way water finds the shape of a cup. He set his bag at his feet. A second Aelthar entered. Smaller than Vexthar, older, robes instead of armor. A pendant at the throat that hummed faintly. "I am Healer Soren," it said. "I will see to your comfort during the journey. We will reach Eternal Dawn in 6 hours. Are you hungry, Lieutenant?" "No." "Are you thirsty?" "No." "Are you afraid?" Callum looked up. Soren's large, dark eyes met his without judgment. "Yes," Callum said. Soren inclined its head. "That is honest," it said. "Thank you." It sat across from him. The transport lifted away from the Liberty without a sound. Through the viewport, Callum watched his ship grow smaller. Then smaller. Then just a glint of light against the dark. Then gone. The first hour passed in silence. Soren simply sat, not speaking, not staring, just present, like a candle in a room. Callum found himself talking. He didn't know why. Maybe because Soren wasn't looking at him. Maybe because the silence was harder than the talking. "I lost 43 people," he said. Soren nodded slowly, said nothing. "At Proxima Station, 3 years ago. They were under my command for about 20 minutes. The captain was already dead. I made the call. I gave the order. They died because I gave the order." Soren still didn't speak. They didn't have time to argue with me. They just followed. They followed me into a wall of fire because I told them to, and then they were gone. And I came home. A long pause. "You came home alone," Soren said. "Yes. That is the heaviest way to come home." Callum looked at the floor. His eyes were burning. He hadn't cried in 3 years. He wasn't going to start now. Not in front of an alien healer on a ship made of crystal. Not yet. "In our culture," Soren said quietly, "we believe that those who fall in defense of others do not pass away into nothing. We believe they walk beside the ones they died for, forever. We believe that every footstep you take, they take with you. Every breath you draw. They draw too. We do not believe in lonely heroes, Lieutenant. We believe that when a soul gives itself for others, it is multiplied, not lost. The transport hummed softly. Callum could not look up. That's a beautiful idea, he said. His voice was hoarse. It is not an idea, Soren said. Where we come from, it is simply the truth. The second hour, Soren brought food. Bread that wasn't quite bread. Fruit that tasted like apples and something else, something brighter. Meat that could have been chicken, if chicken were raised under different stars. Callum ate because Soren asked him to. Tell me about your mother, Soren said. My mother. You have one, yes. Yes. What is she like? Callum chewed slowly, trying to remember the words. Her name is Bridget, he said. She lives in Vermont. That's a place on Earth, with a lot of trees. She used to be a school teacher. She bakes pies in the autumn. She lost my father when I was 19. She's the strongest person I know. And you have not written to her? No. Why? Because... He stopped. He started again. Because I came home wrong, and I don't want her to see it. Soren was quiet for a long time. Lieutenant, it said finally. May I tell you something? Yes. A mother does not need her son to come home right. A mother needs her son to come home. The food sat heavy in his stomach. He set down the fork. The third hour. Then the fourth. The transport ate the distance between stars in a way no human ship ever could. The viewport showed colors Callum had no names for. Soren slept, or what passed for sleep among Ealthar eyes half closed, breathing slow but somehow still aware. Callum couldn't sleep. He sat by the viewport. He thought about his mother. He thought about the 43. He thought about a queen he had never met who had summoned him 3 times across 3 years. He thought about why. He came up with nothing. He was just Callum Whitfield, 29 years old, 7 years in the fleet, a small-town boy from Vermont, whose biggest claim to fame was that he had once turned a dying destroyer into a battering ram because he didn't know what else to do. Why would a queen ask for him by name? 3 times. The 5th hour. The alarm went off. It wasn't a klaxon. It was a chord. A long, low, beautiful chord that sounded like a cathedral organ struck once. But Callum understood it immediately. The language of warning crossed all species. Soren's eyes snapped open. The cabin door slid back, and Vexthar filled the frame. Lieutenant, stay where you are. Do not move. What's happening? 3 vessels, unmarked. They came out of Darkfold 3 minutes ago. They are on intercept. Pirates. No. Vexthar's 4 hands were already moving across a console set into the wall. Lights flared. The transport jolted. The stars in the viewport smeared sideways as the ship turned hard. Vexthar. Are they Ealthar? The commander did not look up. Yes, it said. Callum felt cold. Why are Ealthar attacking an Ealthar transport? Because, Vexthar said quietly, not all of my people want you to reach Her Majesty alive. The ship lurched. A red light bloomed at the edge of the viewport. Then another. Weapons fire. Close. Callum stood up before he thought about it. Old training. Old body memory. Commander, I have combat experience. Give me a station. You are a guest of the Empire. Give me a station. Now. Vexthar looked at him. Then it threw him a sidearm. The grip was strange, 4-fingered, heavier than a human pistol. But it had a trigger and Callum's hand knew what to do with a trigger. "Aft window," Vexthor said. "If anyone boards, aim for the throat plate. Their armor is weakest there." "Understood." "Lieutenant." Callum looked back. Vexthar's dark eyes held his. "If we do not survive this," Vexthar said, "know that it has been my honor to escort you." "We're going to survive this." "Yes." A flicker of something. The Elthar equivalent of a smile. "I believe you. I do not know why, but I believe you." Then the transport rolled hard, and Callum slammed against the bulkhead, and the cabin lights went red. He didn't remember much of the next 8 minutes. That was how combi worked. You remembered the beginning, and you remembered the end, and the middle was a smear of instinct and sound. He remembered Soren going down with a burn across the shoulder. He remembered Vexthar's 4 arms, moving in patterns no human could match. He remembered firing the alien sidearm twice. He remembered hitting something. He remembered the smell of ozone. He remembered very clearly thinking, if I die here, my mother never gets her letter. That was the thought that kept his hand steady. When it was over, 2 of the 3 attacking ships had broken off. The third was a debris field. Soren was alive, but bleeding silver blue from a deep gash. Vexthar's armor was scored along one shoulder. The transport's hull had held. Vexthar lowered itself slowly into the chair across from Callum. Its breathing was rough. "You fired twice," it said. "Yes." "You hit twice." "Yes." A long silence. "Lieutenant Whitfield," Vexthar said. "May I ask you something?" "Yes." "At Proxima Station, when you rammed the plague vessel, were you afraid?" Callum looked at his hands. They were shaking now. The shake always came after. "Yes," he said. "And you did it anyway?" "There wasn't anyone else." Vexthar studied him for a long moment. "There is always someone else, Lieutenant. There is always another commander, another ship, another option. Most people find the other option. Most people find the option that lets them live." Callum didn't answer. Vexthar leaned forward. Slowly, carefully, as if explaining something important to a child. "You did not find the other option," it said. "Not because you could not see it, but because you would not take it. There is a word for that in our language. We do not translate it. There is no word for it in yours. But it is the word we use for the bones beneath everything good." Callum looked up. Vexthar's dark eyes shone. "That is the word my queen uses when she speaks of you, Lieutenant. She has used it for 3 years. To anyone who would listen." The 6th hour. Soren was bandaged, sleeping properly now. The transport had resumed course. Callum sat at the viewport. Vexthar stood beside him. "There," the commander said. "Look." Callum looked. At first, he thought he was seeing a moon, then a planet. Then he realized the scale was wrong. The scale was impossible. The scale was wrong because what he was looking at was a ship. It filled the viewport. It kept filling the viewport. It was a city. A floating city carved out of crystal and starlight. Spires that climbed for kilometers in every direction. Smaller ships moving around it like fish around a reef. Lights that danced along its surface in slow rivers. Domes the size of small countries. A central spire that rose so high, Callum's eye lost it against the dark. "Eternal dawn," Vexthar said quietly. "The throne palace of the Aelthar Empire, 50 kilometers long, 30 wide. Nearly 1 million souls aboard. Older than your nation. Older than your language. Older than the wheel. Callum could not speak. Her Majesty, Vexthar said, has been waiting for you. He turned to look at Callum. For 3 years. The transport moved toward the great crystal city. The lights along its surface seemed for just a moment to brighten, as if the palace itself had noticed his approach. Callum thought of his mother on the porch in Vermont. He thought of the 43. He thought of a queen he had never met, who had asked for him by name. 3 times. He set his hand against the viewport. Why me? He whispered. To no one. To the stars. Vexthar heard him. The commander did not answer, but its 4 hands folded across its chest. Slowly, the way a soldier salutes a thing it cannot name, the way you stand when the answer is too big for words. The transport slipped into the docking corridor of eternal dawn, and the lights of the great crystal city closed gently around them, like a hand, like a welcome, like the beginning of an answer he had been waiting 3 years to receive. Part 2. The docking process took almost an hour. Callum watched through the viewport as the transport moved slowly through a labyrinth of crystal corridors that wound into the heart of eternal dawn. Other ships came and went, ships shaped like leaves, ships shaped like seed pods, ships the size of skyscrapers gliding past ships the size of houses. The whole city pulsed with quiet, ceaseless motion. He'd seen spaceports before. This was not a spaceport. This was a kingdom that happened to fly. When the transport finally settled into its berth, Vexthar stood and straightened the ceremonial armor across its shoulders. Soren was on its feet again, pale, bandaged, but standing. We have arrived, Vexthar said. Are you ready, Lieutenant? Callum tightened the strap on his bag. No. That is the correct answer. The hatch opened. The air hit him first, warmer than the ship, and it smelled like ocean wind, salt without salt. He didn't understand how a vessel that had never touched water could smell like the coast of Maine in summer. But it did, and something inside him loosened just a little, because it was the closest thing to Earth he'd smelled in years. 2 new guards waited on the platform, different armor, brighter, more decorated. The one in front stepped forward. Lieutenant Whitfield, I am Captain Wren of the Palace Guard. I will escort you to your quarters. You will rest. You will eat. Her Majesty will send for you when she is ready. Callum nodded. He followed. The corridors stretched forever, walls that went transparent when he passed, and showed the dark beyond. Ceilings so high he couldn't see them. Gardens grown right into the walls. Plants he couldn't name. Flowers that turned toward him as he walked by. Slowly, like sunflowers tracking the sun. He kept his eyes on the back of Captain Wren's armor, because if he looked at anything else for too long, he was going to stop walking entirely, and he didn't trust his legs to start again. They passed a marketplace, or something like one. Aliens of 40 different species moving in slow, peaceful currents. Tall, thin ones, short, broad ones, one with fur, one with feathers, one with skin that shifted color in time with the lights. They all stopped when he passed. Every one of them. They turned. They watched. Some of them bowed. Slightly. Just a tilt of the head. Callum kept walking. His face went hot. Captain, he said quietly. Why are they doing that? Word travels, Ren said. Word that I'm here. Word that you have been summoned. That's not. It is enough. He didn't know what to do with that, so he kept walking. The lift moved sideways, not up, not down, sideways. He gripped the rail. This is not how lifts work, he said, to nobody in particular. This is how Aelthar lifts work, Ren said. Of course. The doors opened onto a garden, not a garden in the corridor. A garden, a real one. Or as close to real as anything could be inside a ship. Soft light, stone paths, a small fountain, flowers he didn't recognize, the hush of green things growing. Somewhere a bird sang, or what sounded like a bird. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe nothing on this ship was what it sounded like. His quarters were at the far end of the garden. The door had no handle. It opened when he walked toward it. Of course it did. The room was bigger than his apartment back on Earth. The ceiling curved like the inside of an eggshell. The bed was a single carved piece of pale blue stone, soft somehow the way only impossible things can be soft. A long table held food and water. The food smelled like home. Bread that wasn't quite bread. Something that smelled exactly like his mother's pot roast. He stood in the middle of the room and didn't move. Are these accommodations acceptable, Lieutenant? Ren asked. There, he laughed, quietly. Just once. There was no humor in it. They're for a king captain. They are for a guest of Her Majesty, Ren said. Anything less would be an insult to her, if you require anything. Speak aloud. The room will hear you. The door closed. He was alone. He stood there for a long time. Then he sat down on the edge of the carved blue bed, and he held his head in his hands, and he tried very hard not to think about the 43. He didn't sleep. He paced. The garden outside his door called to him eventually. So he opened it, and he walked out. The air was the same warm sea air. The stone path was smooth beneath his boots. He didn't know where the path led. He didn't care. He just needed to walk. Because if he didn't walk, he was going to break apart in that beautiful, impossible room, and he refused to break apart in a queen's house. He walked for 10 minutes. Then he heard a voice. You're not supposed to be out here. He stopped. A woman stood by the fountain. She wasn't an Aelthar, or she didn't look like one. She looked like a woman. A young woman. Early 20s. Slight build. White lab coat. Pale skin. Hair so blonde it was almost silver, pulled back in a loose braid. She held a clipboard against her hip. She looked at him with calm, dark eyes. I'm sorry, Callum said. I wasn't told there were rules about the garden. There aren't. Then, I just thought I'd say it. See if you'd jump. He blinked. She smiled. Small. Quick. A little embarrassed. That was a joke, she said. I'm told I'm not good at them. It was, sort of, a joke. Sort of. What part of it was a joke? All of it. None of it. Depends who's telling it. He didn't know what to say to that. She tilted her head. You must be the lieutenant. I must be. I'm Dr. Holloway. Mira. I work with the medical research staff. You're... He paused. Human. I work here often. That wasn't an answer, but she said it lightly, the way you brush a moth off your sleeve, and somehow he didn't ask again. You don't look like you're sleeping, she said. I'm not. That's a bad habit. I know. Try walking. Walking helps. I am walking. I see that. There was a pause. She looked down at her clipboard. He looked at the fountain. He didn't know what to do with his hands. Sit, she said. If you want. The bench is comfortable. The stone is warm. He didn't sit. She sat. After a moment, he sat too. They talked for 2 hours. He didn't mean to. It just happened. She didn't ask him about Proxima. She didn't ask him why he was here. She asked him about Vermont, about his mother, about the maple trees in October, about what he liked to read when he wasn't on duty, about the first time he'd seen the rings of Saturn through a real port instead of a screen. And he talked. He talked the way water talks when a dam breaks. Quietly at first. Then more. Then more. She listened. She had a way of listening that he hadn't experienced in a long time. Maybe ever. She didn't fill the silences. She let them sit there, like a third person sitting on the bench with them. At some point, she said, "Do you regret it?" He looked at her. She was looking at the fountain, not at him, as if she had asked the question of the water, and he could answer, or not answer, and either way, the water would carry it. Regret what? Whatever it is you're regretting. He almost smiled. Almost. I don't regret what I did, he said. I regret who I didn't save. She was quiet for a long time. When he looked at her, her eyes were wet. She hadn't moved. She hadn't looked at him. But her eyes were wet. He didn't ask why. He didn't think he could handle the answer. When she stood to go, she paused at the edge of the path. Lieutenant. Yes. Welcome to Eternal Dawn. She walked away. He sat on the bench for a long time after she was gone. He didn't know why his chest hurt. He didn't know why he wanted very badly to see her again. He didn't know anything. Lord Chancellor Eldon came for him in the morning. He was old. That was the first thing Callum noticed. Old in a way that Aelthar weren't supposed to look. Silver markings ran down his arms like rivers down a mountain. His robes moved like liquid metal. His eyes were the deepest black Callum had ever seen, and there was something in them that felt like a library. Like centuries had been read into them page by page and stored there. He bowed slightly when Callum entered the audience chamber. Lieutenant, thank you for coming. Please, sit. Callum sat. The room was small, smaller than he expected. Just 2 chairs facing each other across a low crystal table. No guards, no attendants, just the 2 of them. I will ask you questions, Eldon said, about Proxima. I will need details. I will need names. I will need everything you can give me. Do you understand? Yes. Do you consent? He hesitated, then nodded. Yes. It took 3 hours. Eldon asked everything. What was the wind speed reading inside the bridge? What was the temperature? What was the captain wearing? What were the last words spoken before the strike? What did Callum see on the tactical display in the final 90 seconds? How many breaths did he take between giving the order and the impact? Callum answered. Every question. Every detail he could pull from the ruined corner of his mind where Proxima still lived. He'd never told the story like this before, not even to the inquiry board, not even to himself. By the end of it, he was shaking. His hands, his shoulders, a slow tremor that he could not stop. Eldon noticed. Of course he noticed, but he did not pity Callum. He simply put down his stylus, folded his 4 hands on the table, and waited. Lieutenant. Yes. You have been carrying this alone. Yes. For 3 years. Yes. Why? He didn't have an answer. Eldon looked at him for a long moment. Lieutenant Whitfield, he said, may I tell you something? Something I am not permitted to tell you yet in detail. Something I will be permitted to tell you within the next day. Please, you have not been carrying it alone. He blinked. What? You have not been carrying it alone for 3 years. There has been someone else carrying it with you, from a great distance. You did not know. But she did, and she has been carrying it for you for 3 years. Who? That I cannot say. Not yet. Eldon stood. The interview was over. Callum stood too. His legs felt strange under him. Lord Chancellor. Yes. Who else carries it with me? Eldon looked at him with that ancient gaze. Someone who could not sleep either, he said. For a long time. Then he bowed. And he left. That night, the attack came at 0300. Callum was lying in the dark with his eyes open when he heard the faint hiss at the door. Not the chime. Not the natural sound the door made when it opened for him. A hiss. The sound of something being forced. He rolled out of the bed before he was fully awake. 2 figures came through the door. Dark armor. Faces covered. Blades. Actual blades, slim and curved the way assassins in old stories carried them. Callum was on his feet in his sleep clothes with no weapon and no time. The first one came at him fast. Old training took over. He sidestepped the blade, caught the arm, turned the wrist the wrong way, felt something snap. The figure howled a sound he'd never heard before, high and reedy and almost musical, and dropped the knife. The second one was on him before he could turn. He took a cut across the ribs, not deep. He felt it more than saw it. He grabbed the room's water carafe from the table and broke it across the attacker's helmet. Glass everywhere. The figure staggered, and then the door blew off its hinges. Vexithar came through the smoke with all 4 arms full of weapons. The fight was over in 9 seconds. One of the attackers was dead. Vexithar had killed it on the way through the door. The other, the one whose wrist Callum had broken, kneeled on the floor with 2 of Vexithar's blades against its throat. Take off the mask, Vexthar said. The attacker shook its head. Vexthar's blade pressed harder. The attacker reached up, pulled the mask off. It was an Aelthar, a young one. Pale. The kind of pale that means someone hasn't slept in days. His eyes were burning. His teeth were bared. He spat something in his own language. The translation pendant on Vexthar's collar clicked. The human will not steal our queen, it said. The human will not poison her court. The human will not stand where our blood stood. Vexithar went very still. Where did you learn those words? Vexithar said quietly. The Aelthar laughed. He laughed the way people laugh when they have already decided to die. From Lord Vorak, he said. Long live the pure line. Then he bit down. There was a sound, a small one, a capsule cracking between teeth. He was dead in 3 seconds. Callum sat on the bed. His ribs were bleeding through his sleep shirt. He didn't notice. Vexthar was kneeling beside the dead Elthar, examining a tattoo on the inside of the corpse's wrist. A circle. Inside the circle, a single straight line. Vexthar's face was unreadable. Vexthar. Yes. Who is Lord Vorak? A long pause. He is a member of the High Houses, Vexthar said. He is very old. He is very powerful. He believes that our empire grows weak by mixing with other species. He believes the alliance with humanity is the beginning of the end of Elthar greatness. And he wants me dead. He has wanted you dead for 3 years, Lieutenant. Callum stared. Why? Vexithar stood, slowly, as if its bones hurt. That, it said, is not for me to say. You will hear it tomorrow, from the only voice that may speak it. Until then, please, rest. Vexthar turned to go. It stopped at the broken door. Lieutenant. Yes. Tonight, I owe you an apology. For what? I should have been outside your door. I will not make that mistake again. The Elthar bowed. Deeply. 4 arms across its chest. And it was gone. Callum sat on the bed. He stared at the dead man on his floor. His ribs hurt. His hands were shaking again. He wanted his mother. That was the truth of it. The full, embarrassing human truth. He was a grown man, a trained officer. He had just survived an assassination attempt by an alien zealot on a ship the size of a small country. And he wanted his mother. He laughed once, quietly, without any joy in it. Then he started to clean the blood off his hands. Lord Chancellor Ealdin came in the morning. Healers had been by first. Ealthar medicine smelled like lavender and tasted like nothing. Callum's ribs were closed before breakfast. Ealdin sat across from him. His face was grim. Lieutenant, I had hoped to tell you what I'm about to tell you in better circumstances. The events of last night have made that impossible. I must tell you now. Callum waited. Ealdin folded his hands. On the day of Proxima Station, he said, there were 2,000 souls aboard the civilian evacuation convoy. You believed there were 1,800. Yes, there were 1,800 adult civilians. Yes. What? There were also, Ealdin said quietly, 200 Ealthar children. The room went silent. Children, Callum said. Orphans. They had been gathered from a plague-stricken sector. They were being transported under a secret protocol. Their identities were hidden even from your command. They were on the convoy you saved. Callum could not speak. Ealdin continued. 200 Elthar children, Lieutenant. The plague had taken their parents. They had no one. They were being moved to a sanctuary world deeper in our space. If the convoy had fallen, they would have died. Not as a footnote. Not as collateral. They would have been the whole loss. The next generation of an entire region of our empire. Gone. Callum sat very still. You did not just save 1,800 adults, Ealdin said. You saved 200 children, whose names are now being taught to schoolchildren on 3 different worlds. You saved a generation. You did not know. You could not have known. But it is the truth. Something cracked inside Callum's chest. He bent forward. He put his face in his hands. He didn't cry. He just sat there, with his hands over his face. While Lord Chancellor Ealdin of the Elthar Empire waited patiently across from him, saying nothing, because some weights cannot be set down with words. After a long time, Callum looked up. Lord Chancellor. Yes, Lieutenant. The 43, my crew. Did they know? No. They died not knowing. Yes. Then, his voice broke. He cleared it. Then they need to be told. Eldon's old eyes shone. They will be, Lieutenant. I promise you, they will be. He needed air. He didn't care that he wasn't supposed to wander. He walked out of the suite past the broken door frame that Elthar workers were already repairing down the path through the garden, and he kept walking until he reached the small fountain, where he'd met Dr. Holloway. She was there. He didn't even pretend to be surprised. She looked up when he approached. Her clipboard was in her lap. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "Mira, sit down, Lieutenant." He sat. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, "Dr. Holloway isn't really my name." His breath stopped. She didn't look at him. She reached up, slowly, and she pulled a thin lens off her left eye, then her right. She set them down on the bench between them. The dark color drained out of them as they sat there like ink dissolving in water. She turned to him. Her eyes were no longer dark. They were the deepest blue-green he had ever seen. The color of glacier ice with sunlight in it. The color of a sky he had never been under. The color of an ocean he had never seen. She reached up again. She wiped at the side of her cheek with a soft white cloth from her pocket. The faint warm tone of her skin came away on the cloth. What was underneath was paler than paper, paler than snow. "My name," she said quietly, "is Elara." He stared. "Princess Elara, of the House of Larissa, of the Elthar Empire." He could not speak. She kept going, quickly, as if she was afraid she would lose her nerve if she stopped. "I was on the convoy at Proxima," she said. "I was 20 years old then. I had run away from court. I wanted to do science, real science, not court science. I joined the human research team that was working on a plague cure. I was using a false identity. Dr. Mira Holloway was the name I used. My mother knew. Almost no one else did." "You?" "I was on the second ship in the convoy, the one closest to the lead plague vessel, the one that would have been hit first." He understood, and he couldn't breathe. "You saved me," she said. "You saved me, Callum. You saved every child on those ships. You saved a generation of orphans. You saved the only daughter of my mother. And you did it without ever knowing, without ever asking, without ever needing to know." A tear slid down her white cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "For 3 years," she said, "I have watched you. From far away. From files. From reports. From letters I was not permitted to send. I watched you turn down promotions. I watched you ask to be reassigned to quiet sectors. I watched you stop writing to your mother. I watched you carry 43 names in your eyes every time someone took your picture for a fleet record. Elara, and I begged my mother. 3 times I begged her. Bring him here. Tell him. Let him know. So he can stop carrying it alone." He couldn't see her clearly anymore. His eyes were wet. He didn't know what was happening to his face. "Twice," she said. "Your command blocked the summons. Twice my mother let it pass. Out of respect for your government. Out of patience. Out of the slow grind of diplomacy. And the third time," she looked at him, but him. "The third time," she whispered. She could not wait anymore. "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Because she is dying, Callum." The garden went very still. He stared at her. "My mother is dying," she said. "She has perhaps a year, perhaps less. The court does not know. only the inner family knows. Only the highest healers. Only me. And now, only you. She took his hand. Her fingers were cold. She made me promise, Ilara said. She made me promise that before her last breath. She would meet the man who saved her daughter. She would say thank you with her own voice. She would not die without thanking him. He could not speak. He could not move. He sat in a garden on a ship the size of a country, beside an alien princess with hair like new snow, while she held his hand and told him that an empress at the edge of the galaxy had been waiting for him to say thank you before she died. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Ilara squeezed his hand. Tomorrow, she said softly, you will meet her. Tomorrow, she will say what she has waited 3 years to say. Tomorrow. The chord began. Low, long, a single deep note that shivered through the garden like a sob. Ilara's face went white. She stood. That's not the morning bell, she whispered. What is it? That's the alarm. Footsteps. Running. Many of them. The far gates of the garden burst open, and 2 palace guards sprinted toward them. Princess, you must come with us. Now! What's happening? The lead guard's voice was shaking. Lord Vorak, he said. Lord Vorak has moved against the throne. Ilara's hand tightened around Callum's, so hard it hurt. Tonight. Yes, Highness. Before she could meet him. The guard swallowed. Yes, Highness. She turned to Callum. Her eyes were burning. Callum. Yes. My mother has been waiting 3 years. Yes. We are not letting Vorak take that from her. The garden lights flickered red. Somewhere in the great crystal city, a battle was beginning. And Callum Whitfield, a small-town boy from Vermont, with 43 names in his chest, squeezed the cold hand of an alien princess. And he stood up, and for the first time in 3 years, he was not afraid. Part 3. The garden lights went red. Then they went out. For 3 seconds, the only light was the pale glow of Ilara's skin and the deep blue-green of her eyes. She looked like a candle burning in the dark. Then the emergency lighting came up, soft amber, like sunset. Highness, we must move. Where is my mother? In the inner sanctum, sealed. The first wave is being contained on the lower decks. How many ships? 7. Vorak brought 7. 7. Her voice broke on the number. 7 warships against Eternal Dawn. Yes, Highness. He's not trying to win, she said quietly. He's trying to kill her. She turned to Callum. Can you fight? Yes. You're bleeding through your shirt. He looked down. The cut from the night before had opened again. He hadn't noticed. It's not deep. That's what you said 3 years ago about a destroyer that was breaking in half. He looked at her. She looked back. For one strange moment, they almost smiled. Both of them. In the middle of the worst minute of their lives. Then Vexther came through the garden gate at a sprint with 4 sidearms and the look of a soldier who already knows how the night is going to end. Lieutenant, Princess, with me. Now. They ran, through corridors that had been peaceful that morning. Past Aelthar, servants pressed flat against the walls. Past statues of long-dead empresses staring down with cold stone eyes. Past a gallery of paintings where a battle 4 centuries old kept being fought across 40 meters of canvas. And Callum thought, if I die here, I'm going to die surrounded by other people's history. A burst of weapons fire crashed somewhere on the level below. The deck shuddered. They're in the eastern wing, Vexthar said. How did they get inside? They were always inside. Vorak has had agents in the staff for years. How many? We do not know. Yet. They turned a corner, and 3 figures in dark armor stepped out of an alcove with blades up. Vexthar did not slow down. He went through them. It was the first time Callum had really seen what 4 arms could do. 2 blades, 2 pistols, working independently. Like watching a man play 4 instruments at once and never miss a note. The 3 figures went down. Vexthar didn't even look back. Keep moving. Ilara pulled Callum into a service corridor. Narrow, low ceiling. The kind of passage the palace was not supposed to have, except every palace had them. Even queens needed plumbing. This way is faster. Where are we going? You need to see something. Ilara, the queen. I know. Then, Callum, trust me. He looked at her. Her white face was streaked with garden dust, and something darker that might have been blood. He trusted her. He didn't know when that had happened, but it had. He followed. The corridor descended, then descended more, then more. They went down so far that Callum lost track of how many levels they had passed. The walls changed from polished crystal to something older, rougher. Stone veined with metal. Lights set further apart. Where are we? Beneath the throne palace. There's a beneath of the throne palace. Eternal dawn is 1,000 years old, Callum. There's a beneath of the beneath. She stopped at a door. It was small. It looked like nothing. A side door in a side corridor in a forgotten level of a city the size of a small country. She pressed her palm to a plate beside the door. The door hummed. Then it slid open. Inside was a cell. A cell with 1 occupant. A man. A human man. Old. Thin. Gray-haired. He was sitting on a stone bench with his back against the wall. His clothes were rags that had once been a uniform. The collar of an old destroyer captain hung loose around his throat. There were lines on his face that had not been there 3 years ago. There were lines that had been there. And there were eyes. There were eyes that Callum knew. Eyes he had grieved for 3 years. Eyes he had lit a candle for every Sunday of his life since the day he came home alone. The old man looked up. His face did something complicated. Several emotions tried to fit on it at once. None of them quite fit. He spoke. His voice was hoarse from disuse. Cal. Callum's knees did not so much fold as forget how to be knees. He went down on the cold stone floor of an alien cell 5 kilometers beneath an alien throne room. He looked up at the face of a man he had buried in his head 3 years ago. Captain? Hi, kid. That was all the old man said, hi, kid. The way he used to say it on the bridge of the UES Ranger when Callum stumbled in tired off a long watch. Callum tried to speak. He could not. His mouth opened. His throat worked. Nothing came out. The old man. Captain Silas Marrow of the dead destroyer Ranger of the Proxima Battle of the Metal the Navy had pinned to his memorial, 3 Augusts in a row, stood up. Slowly. His joints did not work the way they used to. He limped forward. He put his hand on Callum's head, the way a father does. I told them you'd find me, he said. That was when Callum cried. 3 years of it, all at once, right there on the floor of an alien cell, while a war fought itself somewhere in the city above their heads. He cried like a man who had been holding a stone in his chest for so long he had forgotten the stone was not part of him. He cried like a boy. He cried like every part of him was finally allowed to. Captain Marrow knelt down, with difficulty, and he wrapped his arms around the lieutenant who had once been his bridge officer. "Cal," he said, quietly, into Callum's hair. Cal, it's okay. I've got you. Callum could not speak. Marrow held him, for a long time, until the deck shook again somewhere far above them, until Vexthar appeared in the doorway, with one of his 4 hands pressed to a wound at his side, until Ilara wiped her own face and said very gently, "Captain Marrow, we have to move you. The palace is under attack." The old captain looked up. He looked at Ilara's white face. He looked at Vexithar's torn armor. He looked at the alien cell that had been his home for 36 months. "About time," he said. They moved fast. Marrow could not run. His knees were ruined from 3 years on stone. Callum and Ilara held him up between them. They climbed. Up the long stairs Callum had come down, past the gallery of dead empresses, past the painted battle that had been losing itself for 400 years. At every landing, Vexither killed someone. Callum lost count. He did not let himself think about it. He held Marrow. Marrow held him back. That was all the world was. That, and the breath in his lungs, and the path up. The throne room was at the top. Of course it was. 100 meters of crystal corridor, 2 great doors, guarded by 6 palace guards who saw Ilara coming and went down on one knee before she reached them. "Highness." "Where is she?" "Inside. Sealed. Lord Vorak's flagship has docked at the upper port. He's coming for her himself." "How long?" 10 minutes. Perhaps less. Ilara looked at Vexither. "Get my mother out of the sanctum. Now. Take her to the inner shrine, the one only the family knows. Move her there. Lock it. I will hold him here." "Highness, I cannot leave you." "Vexthar." "Princess." "Vexthar, I have a soldier with me." She looked at Callum. Callum looked back. Something passed between them. Vexthar bowed. 4 arms across his chest. "Yes, Highness." He left at a sprint. The palace guards rose around them, falling into formation. Marrow leaned against a pillar, breathing hard, refusing to sit down. Ilara turned to Callum. She put her hands on his face. Her hands were so cold. "Listen to me." "I'm listening. When he comes through that door, he will try to make you hate him. He will say things about you, about your species, about the 43. He will try to break you, so that you make a mistake. Do not give him your mistakes, Callum." "Okay, promise me." "I promise." She kissed his forehead once, soft, cold lips on warm skin. Then she stepped back and drew a pistol from beneath her white lab coat. She had been carrying it the whole time. He didn't know whether to laugh or weep. Vorak came through the door. He was tall. Even for an Elthar, he was tall. Older than Vexthar. Older even than Eldin. His skin was bone white, but cracked through with old lines the way porcelain cracks before it shatters. His armor was black. His eyes were the color of a river that had not seen sunlight in 1,000 years. He carried a long, curved blade in one hand, and a smaller weapon, something Callum did not recognize in another. 2 more in his lower arms. Heavier weapons. Soldier weapons. He walked into the throne room as if he were walking into his own dining hall. Behind him, 20 soldiers in dark armor fanned out and stopped. Vorak stopped too. He looked at Alara. He looked at Callum. He smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Ah," he said. The translator on Alara's coat carried his voice in clean, even English. "The human is here. Good. I had hoped to meet you, Lieutenant Whitfield. I have wanted to meet you for 3 years." Callum said nothing. He kept his hands at his sides. Alara's pistol was still up, trained on Vorak's chest. She did not lower it. "You are smaller than I expected," Vorak said. Callum said nothing. "You are also less impressive. I will be honest. I have read your file many times. I have looked at your photograph. I have asked myself, this is what they call a hero. This is what brings my empire to its knees. This pale farm boy from a small planet who killed a few of my brothers in a stupid accident on a stupid station 3 years ago." Callum said nothing. Vorak took 1 step forward. "Your 43 crewmates," he said softly. "Did you know one of them was thinking of his daughter when he died? Did you know one of them was praying? Did you know one of them begged for his mother? On the bridge of your dying ship, while you sat in the captain's chair and decided to throw them all away. For a princess you did not even know existed. Do not give him your mistakes." Callum kept his hands at his sides. Vorak's smile widened. "I have studied you, Lieutenant. I know everything. I know about Bridget Whitfield. I know about Vermont. I know about the letter you never finished. Would you like to know what I would do to your mother, if I had the chance? Would you like me to—" Callum took 1 step forward. He stopped. He took a breath. He put his hands back at his sides. He said very quietly, "You're trying very hard, Lord Vorak." The Aelthar narrowed his eyes. "I beg your pardon. You're trying very hard," Callum said. "To make me hate you. To make me hit first. So your soldiers can shoot me down and call it self-defense, and you can stand in a throne room with my body at your feet and tell your people, look at the human. Look at how he attacked your noble lord. So you can hold up my corpse as proof. I'm not stupid, Lord Vorak. I'm a small-town farm boy. But I'm not stupid." Vorak's smile thinned. "You have 10 seconds to leave Lord Vorak," Callum said. "The Queen's guards will hold the throne corridor. Her Royal Highness will not give you the satisfaction of a violent confrontation. The Empire will not give you the satisfaction of a martyrdom. Go home. Sit in your house. Wait for the Chancellor's investigators. Face your trial like an Aelthar, not like a thug." The throne room was very still. Alara's pistol did not waver. Marrow watched from the pillar eyes shining. Vorak's smile finally fell off his face. "Fire," he said. His 20 soldiers raised their weapons. The doors at the far end of the throne room burst open. Vexthar came through with 30 palace guards behind him. The 30 raised their weapons too. For the longest second of Callum's life, no one fired. Vorak looked at his 20. He looked at the 30. He looked at the throne, where his queen was not, where his queen had been moved to a place he could not reach. He understood. His face went the color of a winter river. "You have made," he said, "to Alara a great enemy." "No," Alara said softly. "I have not made one. I have named one. You named yourself." She let the pistol drop. 1 inch, just enough to put it past his heart and at his shoulder. She fired. He went down. Alive. Wounded. Disarmed. His 20 soldiers dropped their weapons at the same moment as if the will of a single man had been the only thing holding them upright. The fight was over. Callum lowered his hands. He had not fired a single shot. He met the Queen 40 minutes later, after the soldiers had been taken, after Vorak had been bandaged and put in chains by his own people, who had refused to look at him as they did it. After Marrow had been examined by a healer and pronounced to everyone's astonishment, including his own salvageable given time, after Alara had taken Callum by the hand and led him down a corridor he had not been allowed to enter before, past 2 doors no human had ever passed, into a small round chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars overhead in real time. There was a single low couch in the center. A woman lay on it. She was not what he had expected. He had expected a giant, a throne, a blaze of presence that filled the room. What he saw was a slender woman in a silver robe. She was not tall. She was not towering. She was small. Smaller than Alara. Her white hair lay across her pillow like spilled milk. Her face was the face of a woman who had been beautiful all her life and was still beautiful now, in a way that age does not erase, but only sharpens. Her skin was pale as new paper. Her hands folded on her belly were thin enough that Callum could see the soft blue lines of her veins. Her eyes were closed. When she heard them enter, she opened them. They were the same impossible color as her daughter's, glacier blue, with sunlight in them. She smiled. It was a tired smile. It was the most beautiful tired smile Callum had ever seen. "There you are," she said. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. The translator caught every word. Callum did not know what to do. So he did what any small-town boy from Vermont would do in the presence of a dying queen. He took off his cap. He held it in his hands. He bowed his head. "Your Majesty, come closer." He came closer. "Closer, Lieutenant." He knelt by the couch. She lifted her thin white hand and laid it against his cheek. Her palm was cool. His own mother used to touch him that way. He had not felt that particular kind of touch, that careful, knowing, motherly touch, since he was 19 years old. "You saved my daughter," she said quietly. "You did not know. You saved 200 children. You did not know. You saved the future of my house, the future of my city, the future of my people. You did not know, and you saved them anyway." Her voice trembled, but she did not let it break. "I have wanted to thank you," she said, "for 3 years. The patience of a dying mother has been very thin. Forgive an old empress, Lieutenant, for making you wait." He could not speak. He could only kneel. She reached behind the cushion beside her, and she lifted out a crystal. It was a small thing, the size of a closed fist. It held its own light. Cold blue. Warm white. The colors moved inside it like something alive. "This is a heart of Zelmoth," she said. "There have been 7 of these in the history of my empire. They are not given for valor. Valor is too small a word. They are given for the rarest thing in the universe. They are given for a kindness performed by someone who does not know they are being kind. They are given to the 7 souls in 3,000 years who acted as if no one was watching. Because no one was." She held it out. "This is the 8th, she said. "It belongs to you. It has belonged to you for 3 years. It has only been waiting for me to put it in your hand." He did not take it. She frowned. Lieutenant. He looked at her. His eyes were full. Your Majesty. Take it. Your Majesty. I cannot. The room went very quiet. Elara stiffened behind him. Vex-Thar at the door did not move. The Queen's blue eyes searched his face. Why? Because, Your Majesty, I was not alone on the Ranger that day. I know. There were 43 others. They followed me into that wall of fire. They did not have time to choose. I gave the order, and they obeyed it. They never knew there were 200 children on the convoy. They never knew there was a princess. They never knew that any of it would matter. He swallowed. They died, Your Majesty, not knowing. They have been dead for 3 years, not knowing. Yes, and I have been alive, carrying their names, alone, for 3 years. I know, Lieutenant. Your Majesty. Yes. If I take this crystal alone, I betray them a second time. Because the truth is, I did not save your daughter alone. I did not save 200 children alone. I gave one order. They are the ones who paid it. They are the ones who deserve your thank you, not me. His voice broke. He did not stop. I will accept this Heart of Zelmoth. I will accept it. In their names. 43 names. I know them all. I will speak them to you here. Now. If you will hear them. And then I will take this crystal. Not as Callum Whitfield, but as the man who lived when 43 did not. To carry their honor. Because they cannot carry it for themselves. Silence. A long and solemn one as the Queen's eyes filled. A single tear slipped down her pale cheek, then another. The Aelthar court that had watched this empress hold the line of her face through wars and pestilence, and the funerals of her own sisters, watched Queen Larissa of the Elthar Empire weep openly, for the first time in 200 years of recorded rule, where everyone could see. She reached up. She placed her thin hand on the back of Callum's neck. She drew his forehead down until it touched hers. For a moment, they were not a queen and a lieutenant. They were a mother and a son. Tell me, she whispered. Tell me their names. He told her. All 43. It took 6 minutes. She listened to every one. When he was done, she lifted her face from his, and she turned to Lord Chancellor Eldon, who had appeared at some point in the doorway, his eyes wet for the first time in his long life. Chancellor, Majesty, strike them into the wall of the Eternal. He bowed deeply. It will be done before sundown, Majesty. All 43 names, in stone, beside our own dead. Equal honor, equal place, for as long as this empire stands. Yes, Majesty. Her eyes returned to Callum. She placed the Heart of Zelmoth into his hand. It was warm. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat answering his. In their names, Lieutenant Whitfield, she said. In all 44 of your names. Welcome home. He went back to the Liberty 3 days later. Captain Marrow came with him. Marrow was thinner than he had been 3 years ago. Slower. He needed a cane. He needed help up steps. He needed a year of rehabilitation that the Navy had not budgeted for and would have to scramble to provide. But he was alive. He was alive. When the Aelthar transport docked at the Liberty's port, the airlock opened, and Captain Adelaide Thorne was there. She had been waiting since the message had come through. She had been waiting longer than that, really. She saw Marrow first. Her face did a thing Callum had never seen it do before. It collapsed. For 1 second. Then she put it back together. Silas. Addie. You son of a bitch. I know. She walked across the docking bay. She did not run. The captain of a fleet vessel did not run in front of her crew. She walked, with perfect dignity, until she reached him. Then she put her face into his shoulder, and the iron captain who had buried more crew than Callum had served with shook silently against the chest of a dead man who was not dead. Nora was there too. She did not bother with dignity. She ran the last 15 meters. She hit Callum like a small storm. She did not let go of him for a long time. When she finally stepped back, she punched him in the arm. Hard. You took forever. I know. Did you meet her? Yes. Was she? She was a queen. Cal, talk to me. Later. Tonight. I'll tell you everything tonight. Promise. I promise. She wiped her eyes. She looked past him, to the Aelthar transport, and she froze. Cal. Cal. Is that a princess? He turned around. Elara stood at the open hatch of the transport in a simple white traveling robe. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were that impossible glacier blue. She had not bothered to dye them again. There was no need. Everyone in 3 star systems knew her name now. She walked down the ramp. She walked past the saluting crew. She stopped in front of Callum. She put her hand on his chest. I have to go back. I know. My mother. She has a little time. I want to be with her for it. I know. When she could not finish the sentence. Then come find me, he said quietly. When you're ready, I'll be here. You might be on the other side of the galaxy. Then come find me on the other side of the galaxy. She laughed, once, a small, watery laugh. Lieutenant Whitfield, you are a very strange man. So I've been told. Callum. Yes. Will you wait for me? He looked at her white face. He looked at her eyes that were the color of an ocean he had never seen. He looked at the woman who had sat with him in a garden and listened to him talk about maple trees in October. Elara, he said, I waited 3 years to find out why you needed me. Yes. I can wait a little longer to find out what comes next. She rose up on her toes. She kissed him once, on the corner of his mouth. Quick, soft, white lips, warm now. Then she turned and walked back up the ramp, and the Aelthar transport closed its hatch, and it slipped away from the Liberty and into the deep. He stood there a long time. Adelaide Thorne came up beside him eventually. Lieutenant. Ma'am, you are going to be a lot of paperwork. He laughed. He hadn't laughed since the day he came home alone. It surprised him. It surprised her too. She looked at him sideways, and then she laughed. And then Nora laughed. And Marrow leaned on his cane and shook his head. And laughed. The 4 of them stood in the docking bay laughing the way people laugh when something inside them that has been broken for a long time has been quietly mended. That night, in his quarters, Callum sat by the viewport. He took out the drawer beside his bunk. He took out the letter, the 3 lines, the unfinished sentence, Mom, I'm sorry I haven't written. I don't know how to. He sat for a long time. He picked up the pen. He looked at the stars. He looked at the small framed photograph of Bridget Whitfield on the front porch in Vermont, with her hand shielding her eyes from the sun. He thought about the heart of Zelmoth that now lived in a small silk box on the shelf above his desk. He thought about 43 names that even at this moment were being chiseled into a wall of black stone at the edge of charted space, where they would be read by Aelthar children for 1,000 years. He thought about an old captain sleeping on the medical deck 2 floors above him. He thought about a princess with snow-white hair who was traveling home to sit beside her dying mother. He thought about himself. He thought about who he had been at 0247 just 6 nights ago. He thought about who he was now. He picked up the pen. He wrote, "Mom, I'm sorry I haven't written. I don't know how to. Until tonight. Tonight I do. I'm coming home. Mom, I'm okay. I'm really, finally okay. I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you about the 43. I'll tell you about Captain Marrow, his mama. He's alive. I know. I'll tell you about a queen on the other side of the dark who waited 3 years to say one word to me. I'll tell you about a girl with white hair and ocean eyes who I think you are going to love. I'll tell you about the kind of life that hides behind the kind of grief I came home with. I have been carrying 43 men in my chest for 3 years, Mom. I thought it was a stone. It wasn't. It was 43 of the best men I have ever known. They are not heavy anymore. They have been honored. Their names are in stone on the other side of the galaxy. Aelthar children will read them. They will live longer than any of us. I am no longer alone with them. And I am no longer alone. Mom, put the kettle on. Your son is coming home. All my love, Cal." He read the letter once. He folded it. He sealed it. He set it on the desk to mail in the morning. He looked at the stars. He thought about a hand on his cheek that had been cool as new paper. He thought about a hand on his cheek that somewhere in Vermont was about to receive a letter she had been waiting 3 years to read. Both hands. Both mothers. The dark suddenly did not seem so dark. That the smallest kindnesses we perform are sometimes the very things that change the course of history. That 43 good men can be saved from oblivion by the simple act of one survivor refusing to take a crown alone. And that the longest distance in the universe is not between stars. It is between a young man and the sentence he has been afraid to finish. But that distance, too, can be crossed. One pen, one page, one word at a time.